All right, today is the day that we start a series on this channel where we build a YouTube channel and online business around the YouTube channel from no idea to $1,000 per month. Eventually we'll grow it bigger than that, but that's going to be our first goal. And I'm doing this on this channel because it's something that I wish I would have had when I started an online business. As I mentioned before, I started my first online business from a place of panic and desperation. The pandemic had wiped out almost 95% of my income. I was a wedding photographer, and I was Googling how to make money online and, found so many people teaching different techniques and ideas. Some were scams, some were not. I didn't know which were which, so I wasted a lot of money, wasted a lot of time, made a ton of mistakes. And little by little, over the last few years, I've learned a few things, been able to build online businesses to built $1,000 to $10,000 per month, was able to sell that business to get out of debt. My wife and I are currently building 2 more businesses right now with plans to sell those when our youngest graduates high school. So we can retire my wife from her job at the same year that our youngest graduates. And I always thought that building an online business in public would just be beneficial to somebody who really wanted to do this, but was kind of overwhelmed by all the options. And so I decided that the best way I could help my audience here would be to just take something that I'm interested in and build it from scratch to $1,000 per month to show that you really can do this in almost any niche. And so just to kind of give you a quick overview of what the series is going to be, we're going to start in this video. At the end of this video, we will start with step 1, which is choosing a niche, how I go about that. Once the business is set up and we kind of have now it's just about creating the content and being consistent, I'll go live every single week to kind of give you an update on how many hours I spent on the business, what I did, what's working, what's not working, what I'm noticing in the analytics. I'll share the business with you. This isn't going to be like a secret business. You're going to have access to the domain, the YouTube channel, everything. And during those lives, for anyone who wants to jump on live with me, I'll answer any questions that you have about the business. I'll talk about any monetization that's happening. Obviously no money is going to be made in the beginning, but once money does start trickling in, I'll show you every week what it's making, where it's coming from, ideas that I might have in the future to grow the business bigger. Basically an open book, no gatekeeping. It's something I wish I would have had when I started an online business. And so if that's something that you want to follow along with, make sure to subscribe to the channel and let's get started. All right, so the first step in setting up an online business and YouTube channel is picking a niche, a topic that motivates us and excites us, right? We want it to be something that we can show up for week after week, especially in the beginning when we're not getting paid and probably not very many people are even watching. So you want it to be something that you can kind of get through that mental roadblock in the beginning where you're just kind of like, oh, what am I doing here? No one's watching. I'm not making any money. Because you have to remember, this is not a get rich quick kind of thing. So we want to pick something and not just allow money to be the only driver behind it. It's got to be something that we're excited to show up for. So the first thing that I like to do is just to get all the ideas down on paper, right? Grab a piece of paper, a pen, and we're going to start with a series of questions just to get all the ideas out there. And the first question that you want to ask is just, what am I good at? What skills do I even have? Everyone's got something, right? You're good at something. Doesn't have to be something that you do for work, just something that you do at home. What are the skills that you have? It could be you're really good at parenting. It could be that you're good at working on cars. It could be you're good at accounting. You could, whatever it is for you, just make a list. And don't worry about thinking of, can I make money with this? Can I build a channel? Don't worry about it. Just get it all down on paper so you can see it in front of you. Okay. for my list, remember, we're building a channel here. I'm going to be setting up a channel in business and growing it to $1,000 per month. That's the first goal, where I'm going to actually hope to build it even bigger than that. But the first goal is $1,000 per month. So when I answer the question of what am I good at, what skills do I have? So you can see here that all kinds of photography. That's how I made my living for 20 years. A lot of photo editing, a lot of business building, Etsy, Canva. So I have 2 Etsy shops, so I have a lot of experience with that. Parenting, I have 3 boys. I played tons of instruments, so I have, guitar and drums and keyboard, trumpet. I love landscaping and yard work. I'm pretty good at that. Photoshop and Lightroom, graphic design. Getting really good with AI and learning how to kind of set AI up and do advanced prompting and stuff like that. Picture framing and music recording. Those were the ones that kind of were my main, what am I good at? What skills do I have? I'm sure there's others, but again, you just want to you don't want to spend too long on this. Spend, 5 to 10 minutes for each one of these questions, max. So the next question, one of my favorites is, what do I like? What do I enjoy? What kind of gets me going? And so obviously landscape photography, out of all the photography things, is the one that I personally enjoy the most. I love camping, being outdoors. You can see fishing, traveling, road trips, amusement parks, especially Disney, doing puzzles, board games, playing the guitar, drums, keyboard, recording music, spending time with my wife and kids. I love doing Legos. It's funny, I use my kids as an excuse, we need more Legos. Like, kids need Legos, right? And now that they're getting older, I still love Legos. Luckily, my kids do too. I love researching how other people make money. You'll find that on this channel. Every week I go through and I showcase 2 or 3 businesses, and I basically do a deep dive into the business, show how it's making money. I geek out over that stuff. And I love working on and in my yard. So those are the things that I personally like. You're going to write down what you personally like. What problems have I solved for myself or helped others solve? This one, for me, and again, you can put down, they can be small problems or big problems. I put some pretty big problems. So I reduced massive debt. So I lost my wedding photography business that I had for 15 years, got destroyed during the pandemic, lost 95% of my income, went into massive, massive debt. Very, very stressful. So over the last few years, I've been able to come out of that debt. That was a big problem I solved for myself. Building income from scratch online, that was another one. And I had to do that because of the pandemic. When the business crashed, there were no jobs. You couldn't go out and get a job at a restaurant or anywhere. You had to figure stuff out from home. So I started Googling how to make money online, started, the process, taking advice, listening to people, taking bad advice, spending lots of money on things that were kind of scammy. Big roller coaster ride. But I eventually figured it out, and it helped me get out of debt. I put reduced anxiety. So I was on anxiety medication for 25 years. 25 years. Horrible. It was crippling. Like, I would have panic attacks, like sitting in traffic. It was awful. And I was able to, just reading lots of books, listening to podcasts, trying different exercises, completely get off medication. So that was another problem. And then I helped raise 3 boys. We have 3 teenagers. One's on his way to college. And so I've solved lots of problems in the parenting space. Okay, the next question is, what do others typically ask you for help with? Okay, and for me, photography and photo editing. I get asked by every single person I know, business, colleagues and friends and family, anything about photography, editing, parenting issues, and how to make extra money online with side hustles and stuff. Just because like I said, I've built a couple online businesses. I have a couple Etsy shops. I have a couple side hustles doing other things like photo editing. So I always love kind of doing this kind of stuff where I help people figure out things that they're interested in, what they're good at, and then teaching them how to monetize that. Next question would be, what would I like to learn? That's something that a lot of people don't think about YouTube. You don't have to be an expert. You don't even have to be doing the thing right now. It can just be something that you're interested in and something that you're willing to document the journey of, because people love following the journey of others and watching people get better at something. It's just, people love kind of sitting back and kind of being a voyeur with it. And people like learning from people who are just a couple steps ahead of them. So that can be a wonderful idea. Even if you can build a whole business around something that you haven't even started yet. For me, I put painting. Like, I don't know how to paint anything, but I've watched YouTube videos on people who paint landscapes. I thought that would be a fun channel to make. Fly fishing is another one for me. Never done fly fishing, but it looks really relaxing. So I thought that could be an idea. I put piano. So I played keyboards in a cover band for many, many years, an 80s cover band. But I kind of cheated my way through it. I didn't know why I didn't know, chords. I didn't know theory or anything like that. I just basically learned the parts by patterns and memorizing, kind of playing by ear. But I've always wanted to play the piano and learn all of the theory behind it and be able to play like classical pieces and stuff. So I thought that would be a fun channel, kind of documenting that process. And then home repair and DIY projects. I can't fix anything in my house. I break everything that I try to fix. And so I thought that would be, there's so many things around my house. I could make weekly videos forever, and the amount of things in my house that need to be fixed. And so that would be another fun idea. So you can see, I could make a successful channel around any of those things that I don't know how to do yet. You can do the same. Another question is topics that I currently watch, read, or listen to, okay? Because that, you might not even realize it, but you spend a lot of time watching things on YouTube or reading books or listening to podcasts, magazines, things like that. So for me, I put lots of online business stuff. Like I said, I do every day. I'm online looking into businesses and how they make money. And so I love that. Travel. I love watching videos and reading about different places to go, especially tropical locations and a lot of European locations that I've never visited. Anything Disney parks related, I'm all in. I follow YouTubers who kind of document their days at Disney. I would move to Disney if I could. Wildlife, anything to do with wildlife, sign me up. World history, art, anything creative really, and then music, and pretty much any style of music. So those are the things that I watch, listen to, currently like read about. And so any one of those ideas could be a successful business. What types of people, so this is another question, what types of people do I understand, relate to, or that I really want to help or encourage? And this one's important just because it, even if you pick a niche, well, within that niche, there might be a very specific group of people that you want to help within that niche. And we'll kind of get to that in a minute. You'll kind of see it in practice. But for me, I relate to and love to help parents, other parents. I relate to people who are over 40 just because I'm 53 and I've, kind of in that stage of life. So we're all kind of going through a lot of the same things. And then I love to help people, and I relate to people who feel behind in life. Because when that pandemic hit and my business went under and we had to start over in our late 40s, we felt way behind. And if I can help other people who are in that place or who might find themselves in that place coming up with all this AI stuff and jobs moving around and being lost, the more people who have that feeling of like anxiety and fear, I would love to help every single person out there if I could. Another question, what types of things do I spend money on? Well, I buy camera gear, I buy music instruments, I buy lots of business products, memberships, courses, things like that. I buy Legos. I buy lots of bird feeders, hummingbird feeders, bird feeders for the squirrels, we have like 3 or 4 different kinds of bird seed that we mix together to bring a big variety of wildlife to our yard. I spend money on travel and flowers, plants, and trees for our deck and yard. So those are the things that I spend money on. So those could all be potential channel ideas, right? Because I'm already spending money on them. What could I talk about every day or any time? For me, online business, travel, music, anything outdoors, and anything photography related, and parenting probably too. So those, obviously, all of those categories would make a great online business. So once we answered all those questions and we have this list of how it doesn't matter how many things are on there, we want to go through and try to pick at least like 5 to 10 that get us excited the most, that we're like, oh, like I love this idea. There's something on there where you're like, oh, like I'm good at this, but I don't really care about it. Get rid of it. There's so many options for online business that you don't have to choose something that you don't enjoy. So for me, I ended up with 13. You can see my top 13 were landscape photography, specifically landscape photography and portrait photography. Not weddings, not commercial. I've done all of that work, but those don't excite me as much as landscape photography, and I love portrait photography. I love travel, amusement parks, especially Disney, guitar, keyboard and piano, landscaping and yard work, online business, making extra money online, side hustles, recording music, feeding birds, squirrels, wildlife in my yard, Legos, camping, and anything to do with hanging out with my family and parenting. Okay? So once we have our list of okay, these are things that I could really do, it's time to validate the broad ideas, like the broad categories. Okay? We want to make sure that there are other people online already making money with this. People are watching it, and it's not that you can't have a successful YouTube channel or business in a topic or a niche that maybe isn't, widely viewed, or that maybe is a little more obscure. But I recommend, if this is your first online business, that you pick something that is already validated. Competition is a good thing. Like if you see channels that have competitors with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of views, that's a good thing. Don't be afraid to jump into that space. There's room for everybody. I promise there's room for everybody. So the questions that I ask to kind of validate, and pretty much any niche you're going to validate it, and I'm going to show you exactly how. You're going to hop online. Well, first you're going to say, would I enjoy making content about this? And I'm guessing if it ended up in your final list, the answer is yes. But just answer that question. Would I actually enjoy making content about this for the next year or two? Then you want to go onto YouTube and see if there are other channels already making content on this, and are those videos getting views? Are there channels with a lot of subscribers? And it doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands. Can you find channels with 10, 20, 30,000 subscribers where some of their videos are getting 10, 20, 30,000 views? If so, you can make a living in that niche. Are there other places where people are talking about this topic, like forums, Reddit threads, podcasts, blogs? If so, that moves it into the yes category. It's validated. There's people talking about this online and actively engaging in the topic. Are there books, magazines, Amazon products? Can you go onto Amazon and find products in the space related to your space? Are there tools and software around the topic? Anything where people are spending money in that topic, again, means that you can make some of that money. So once we have validated, so of all those lists, so I actually validated for mine, there was 13. I validated all 13. I knew that there was people making content, people reviewing it. There were products, services, software in those spaces, and I could see myself making content on it for at least a year. But now we want to get more specific with each one of those broader niches, okay? And the way we do this is and I'm going to give you some examples. So I'm going to take an idea from my list, and we're going to take the idea of like guitar. Okay. I love playing the guitar. I've played guitar since I was 14 years old. I would love to have a channel playing guitar. If I could make money playing guitar, that would be amazing, right? But you could have country guitar, bluegrass, rock, jazz, beginners, people who want to learn popular songs. I mean, the ideas are endless for every instrument, right? So instead of guitar, I thought of a fun channel for me would be guitar for older adults who love 70s and 80s rock. And I'm a product of the 1980s. I was born in the 70s, grew up, I went to every single concert that there was, every rock concert that there was in the 1980s and 90s. And that would be so much fun to have a channel around that, right? So you see how I'm taking a broad niche and I'm making it very, very specific to something that I could get behind and have a lot of fun with. So another example would be Disney. I said I loved amusement parks. I loved amusement parks, especially Disney. But Disney's broad, right? Disney for what? Disney for adults, Disney for little kids, Disney for teenagers. For me, and because I have experience in this, I would make it more for Disney tips for families of 5. Because we're a family of 5, and one thing that I learned once we had our 3rd kid, it's very hard to stay at a hotel at Disney with a family of 5. You have to get 2 rooms. There are a few hotels, though, that have a little bit bigger rooms that are meant for families of 5 and 6. I had to learn that through hours and hours of research. But now, because we've gone to Disney so many times with our kids, we've have the experience, we know the good places to eat, we've managed squeezing in all of the stuff during a day. I could help other people with that. So that would be a super fun channel to have as well. And another example that I put here was photography or portrait photography. Those are very broad, right? Portrait photography for who? Well, I could help portrait photography tips for parents with no or little photography experience. It's a very niche within a niche. And that's kind of where the magic happens when you're building a channel, because you start attracting like-minded people, a very, very curated audience. And when you can do that on YouTube and online, you're going to make more money. Okay, so like I said, I took my top 13. Okay, I narrowed down each one of those to a more specific niche, and then I ended up consolidating that down into my top 6. You eventually have to start whittling these down. I couldn't just keep having 13 as like, I could build 13 channels. So I moved it down to 6, and you can see portrait photography tips for parents with little to no photography experience, Disney park tips for families of 5, feeding birds and squirrels and setting up backyard wildlife habitats, guitar for older adults who love 70s and 80s rock, Etsy as a side hustle for digital and print-on-demand sellers, and parenting tips for parents of teen boys. Then I took those top 6 and I said, okay, what are the 3 that excite me the most out of these? And I ended up with the photography one, the feeding the birds and squirrels and the habitats, and the guitar for older adults. Those are my top 3. Now that we have the top 3, now we want to ask, okay, there's a couple things. We want to find out, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where's our excitement level for that idea? And how would we make money in those spaces? And you can do this in a few different ways for the money part. You can go onto the YouTube channels, which I'll show you in another video, but you can just do research of, looking at some popular videos and channels and seeing how are they monetized. Are they getting sponsors on their videos? Do they have affiliate links in their videos? Do they have a membership? Are they selling their own courses? Do they have ads being played, only? Are they not selling anything? I don't recommend that. Building a business on YouTube and only relying on AdSense is risky, very, very risky, because number one, the money goes up and down. You can never count on it. And, their algorithm could change tomorrow and stop sending you viewers. And if you've built everything on their property and not kind of own some of that yourself, you could lose all that income. But AdSense is kind of a bonus. So I go through the three niches that I had narrowed down. First one was portrait photography tips for parents with little to no photography experience. So I know I can make AdSense. I could sell courses. I could have a membership community where people pay $5, $10, $15 or more. I could have affiliate links to cameras and all the other camera gear that I'm using and recommending. I could have sponsored videos, and I could do affiliates for related photography software and things like, Adobe Photoshop and Canva and things like that. So the income potential for this niche is high. I know the space. I've looked at many channels in this space, and there's some channels making a lot of money in that space. So I know it's high. Second one would be the feeding birds and squirrels and setting up backyard wildlife habitats, okay? Again, I could make AdSense. I could do affiliates for bird feeders and other products. I could have a possible membership or community. I don't know if that would be super popular, but it's an idea. Affiliates for cameras and like binoculars and people who love kind of watching wildlife. Sponsored videos, and then merchandise, which I think could be fun because you could make like fun like print on demand shirts and mugs and phone cases and all kinds of stuff based on the wildlife, the backyard wildlife that you're showcasing. The income potential for this niche is probably a little lower than the photography one, actually probably a lot lower. So I put it in the medium category just because there are a lot of ways that you could make money, but it's more of a very, very hobby niche. And it's not like people have tons of problems in this space. I mean, there are different ideas I can think of people, trying to keep squirrels away from their bird feeder or how to attract more birds, things like that. So there are problems, but they're not like life and death problems. So, and my final of the three was the guitar for older adults who love 70s and 80s rock. I love this idea just because, like I said, I'm a product of the 80s. For this, you could do AdSense, affiliates for guitars, amps, and other gear, which are very pricey. So you could make a lot of money with affiliates. You could definitely have a membership and a community for this one. Courses and digital products, sponsored videos, and you could even do merchandise for this one. Shirts, mugs, all the different products. So income potential for this is also high. So on a scale of 1 to 10, for those three, I put 7 for the photography one, just because I love it. I could definitely get behind it and make content, but I worked as a photographer for so long. I don't know if I'd want to build another business in the photography space. I'm not saying I'm totally against it, but that's the only thing that kind of made me go, I'm not 100%. The feeding birds and squirrels and setting up backyard wildlife habitats. I put a 9 for this one because this one excites me. Even though it's less money potential, I do it every day already. I love spending time in my yard and watching all the different wildlife that comes to our bird feeders. The idea of like setting up new habitats and spots in our yard and I don't know, just photographing it and making videos on it. I think that one sounds like a lot of fun. Again, less money than the other two, but I could see myself wanting to make content for years for a channel like that. And then guitar for older adults who love the 70s and 80s. Again, I gave it an 8, slightly below the feeding bird ones, just because it would be a lot more setup and I'd have to, more expensive gear. My guitars are pretty old and beat up, but I love it because you could have you could build sets and you could, your background could be super fun and 80s themed or 70s themed. You could swap them out for whatever you were teaching. I think the community would be a lot of fun because everyone who joined that community would just be I think it would be fun. So there was a couple others that I want to tell you. There were a couple others. One of them was the Etsy as a side hustle for digital and print on demand sellers, okay? And that hit my top 6 because I loved graphic design. I love helping others make money. I have 2 Etsy shops that make a nice little side hustle income, and I'd be really good at it. But for this channel here where I'm showing you how to make a business YouTube channel from scratch that you can monetize, I liked that idea, but I want to try to stay away from the teaching you how to make money online by setting up a site that's like how to make money online. You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's so many YouTubers out there. I'm not saying it's bad advice, but there's so many channels that their income is made by teaching you how to make income on YouTube. So it's like, here, I'm going to teach you how to make money on YouTube, but I'm going to make my money on YouTube by teaching you how to make money on YouTube. So I wanted to make this my choice for the video, for the channel that we're going to build from scratch here to $1,000 per month. I wanted it to be in a niche that wasn't around teaching others how to make money, if that makes sense. So that's why it didn't make my top 3, but I knew I think that would have probably been the most successful because there's so many people online that want to build a side hustle on Etsy, print on demand, and I'm really good at it. And so I knew I could probably monetize that one the fastest because there's coaching involved. But I just want to let you know that why I didn't choose it for my top 3, because I wanted my top 3 to be more hobby based. So you could see that you can really build an income online doing almost anything. So that's why I chose teaching parents portrait photography, feeding birds and squirrels, and teaching older adults, building a channel around 70s and 80s rock guitar. Okay, and the winner is, right, drum roll. I chose feeding birds and squirrels and setting up backyard wildlife habitats. I love the idea of this channel for me because it's something I do every day. I love going into like shops and looking at all the different bird feeders. The idea of, I've never thought about setting up different little habitats in my yard and making them look cool, and just that idea excites me. So I get to work in my yard, spend time outdoors. I can get my family involved in it. So it kind of hits like a lot of different niches for me. And like I said, we already kind of validated that there were people in this space making money. There was, lots of channels pulling in pretty impressive views in that space. And then just all the bird feeders and bird seed and stuff like that people buy. I mean, people in that space, I know from experience, are, they're pretty dedicated. They don't mind spending a little bit of money on that hobby. So like I said, the winner is feeding birds and squirrels and setting up backyard wildlife habitats. I think it's going to be an awesome channel. That's the channel that we're going to build on here. You're going to be able to follow along of exactly how I set up the entire business, how we go about making content, picking a few topic clusters, buckets that we're going to make content in, how we're going to monetize the channel, how we're going to stay consistent, planning a schedule. And the goal is to get this new channel to $1,000 per month. And then once we get there, we can see where we want to take it next. I'd love to hear, either now or once you do this exercise and go through these questions, what niche or niches did you land on that what could you make a business around? I'd love to hear it. And I would be more than willing, if you're having trouble hitting roadblocks of, how would I monetize this? Or I feel like I like this idea, but how would I make it unique? Throw the idea in the comments section and I'd be more than happy to make another video and just kind of go through my ideas of how I would monetize a channel like that, or how you might be able to approach it in different ways. I'd be more than happy to help. And if you want the full checklist of what we're going to cover in this series, kind of the order of events of how I would go of setting up a YouTube channel and online business, I put together a kind of a quick start checklist. You can grab it for free below in the description. It goes over kind of every little step that we're going to cover. The videos are going to go way more in depth, but the checklist is just kind of nice so you can see the roadmap. And in that checklist, I included 50 different niche ideas that just kind of gets the ideas flowing if you're staring at a blank page. Next up in this series, which will be just in the next few days, we're going to, for this backyard, habitat wildlife channel, I'm going to figure out the content pillars, the topic buckets for the channel, and I'm going to come up with 30 video ideas that I kind of want to start the channel with. So kind of my first basically few months worth of content. And so that'll be the next video in the series, and why I recommend doing that next before we pick a name, before we actually set up the channel. All those things will be covered here, but the next video is going to be just kind of figuring out those topic clusters, why I'm choosing them, how I'm kind of getting to those, how many I'm choosing, and then picking basically a few video ideas within each to start the channel with. Again, subscribe to the channel if this is a series that you want to follow along with. We do a lot of other topics on the channel, but I just thought that having a video like this, a series where I walk you through starting from scratch and then eventually getting to $1,000 per month and not hiding anything, I hope that it's valuable, and I hope that it helps some of you start your own channel and online business. Because I think for people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, having your own online business that you control, you don't have to worry about AI coming for your job or what's going to happen with Social Security by the time you retire. Maybe you started late in life like me with retirement. Maybe your job got wiped out, you got laid off. I just think that this is the future way of retirement. You being in control kind of your destiny. So I'm hoping that this series helps a bunch of people. And yeah, thanks for watching.